I just bought 8 beautiful quarter length fabrics for my next boho journal cover. Yes, fabric I'm gonna put on file folder covers. I cannot wait to show you this video. Hello and welcome back to Where Wendy Travels, Where Wendy Creates. What I have is the different 8 pieces of fabric that I've chosen to go on the outside of my boho journals. And I got 1/4 inch yards cuts, 1/4 yard cuts, and I am just ripping off that extra inch, making a straight edge on each of my 8 fabrics, and that way the next step we're going to take to the ironing board and we're going to iron on the sticky back, and I'll walk you through that process in just a moment. But first, we've got to trim down all of our pieces to that approximate 8 inch. And again, we're not going to be very specific because these are junk journals and we are putting lace on them as well. And the strip that you pull off, this is excellent for tying the book closed. We can even dye the back of it with the tea stain, which will make it all a more even color. When I'm doing my arts and crafts in my boho journals, I use a lot of different fusible, which I call sticky back. Heat and Bond is one of them. This is one of my favorites, Pellin. There's many others. This is a very old roll. As you can see, it's $2.99 here. But this is part of the Wonder Under by Pellin. It's the fusible webs and adhesive interfacing paper backed. So what I do is I put this on my fabric using the instructions that come on the Pellin roll, and I'm going to walk you through that. I iron it on to the bumpy side, and on the other side is smooth, and it's going to have a paper which I'll show you how to peel off once we get the fabric on it. So I'm going to take my fabrics that I had 1/4 yard pieces, and then I've ripped down to approximately 8.5 inches to go on the outside of the journal. I'm going to lay this down and then I'm going to iron it on. And I'm setting my iron to high heat, but I'm turning it on no steam so that we don't permanently set it. It's easy to get off the paper. And then we're going to permanently set it when we put it on the paper folder that we're using as the cover of our book. And you feel it getting hot there. But again, I'm going to do it approximately 1 minute to 2 minutes, heated through on high setting. And what I'm doing is just trimming off the side. And I like to do 2 of these at a time. Sometimes I do more, but 2 are much more easy to manage. You just move the paper up, you re-iron these, and then once I get this ironed down, I'm going to trim between those, and we're moving on to the next step. And when you're using your paper backing, you want to remember to use your paper scissors, not to use your fabric scissors and get them dull. Make sure all the Pellin or the paper, Misty Fuse, whatever you're using, is on the ironing board. Make sure you get the sides. Not sure I left that on long enough, but I want to show you how we just take the ending. We're going to do that separately, but we're going to trim right up the center, separating the 2 pieces. And again, I just did the 2 pieces together at the same time because it's faster for me. If you're only making 1 journal or using 1 fabric, then obviously you're going to do 1 at a time, but I like to make a few at a time. And that for me is just an easier process because when I go shopping, I like to purchase. And again, I'm using my paper stickers, and I didn't let this cool off. It's still hot, so it's a little gummy to cut through with the paper scissors because they're much duller than the fabric scissors. But I didn't want to obviously mess up my fabric scissors. So we are just trimming the 2 of these apart. And again, each quarter yard that we're using, and I bought an entire bolt of the Pellin when I buy it. But each quarter yard makes 2.5 journals. So I usually make 2 journals out of a 1/4 inch quarter yard of fabric. And then I use the other for pockets or reinforcing the different pages, as I like to do for those. And when you're doing 1 slice of 1/4 yard fabric at a time, then you can trim each piece as you go, making sure you don't have any sticky, because you don't want that on your iron or your ironing board. And when you're putting on your next strip, you want to line up the paper smoothly, and that way you're not overlapping. And what we're doing today is I've gathered a lot of different sheets together, and we're going to create a journal, and it's going to be 8.5 by 11 sheets of paper, approximately, folded in half. So our inside is going to be approximately that 5.5 by 8.5 size. So it's a regular sheet of typing paper, or whatever you have folded in half is going to be our largest pieces. And then we have several book pages. It looks like I have a menu here that I'm going to go ahead and fold in half and have in here as well as other book pages, and just a collection of things that have fallen out of books or gotten out of library books that were bought on a clearance before they hit the landfill. I do believe in upcycling and recycling. Look at that, cockroach. Upcycling and recycling. Let's see if I even want to use that. I'm not sure. Kind of don't like him, so we're probably going to cover him up. I do like the looks like a little pig creature and the squirrel. So we're going to decide whether we're going to use him in the book or not. But again, I like to upcycle, recycle, so we're going to put these pages in. But first, I wanted to show you how we go ahead, now that we know the sizes of our pages, how we go ahead and start fixing our file folders, since we are making the file folder. And it's just a regular file folder that I have. And we're going to trim this up, and then we're going to go ahead and iron on my sheets. I'm going to show you how we do that. And I have a handful of those book pages that I'm going to go ahead and fold in half and see how they fit in our file folder. And just fold those in half, crease down the pages so they're nice and flat. And then we're going to put those inside of the file folder. We want the file folder being our outside piece. And we're just going to take one of those and move the others to the side. Take our file folders, our folded sheets, put them right in the center. And as you can see, the file folder is made to fit the 8.5 by 11 size. So we're going to go ahead and tear that and rip that to where inside it makes a nice cover for our Boho junk journal. And I'm ripping down one side, and then we're going to come back and rip down the other side so that we have a nice covering all of our pages. Okay, so once we have ripped off the outside edges, we're going to keep those pieces. We're going to use some of these as belly bands on the inside of our junk journal. And then we're going to take the inside pieces, we're going to squish them to one side, and we're going to tear off just a very, very fine line up here to make that torn edge look. And we're going to tear off the bottom part a little bit larger so I can use that as well as a pocket. Okay, as you can see, I'm just tearing off a little part of that edge so that we can save the bulk of it, and I'm only wasting a tiny piece. And keep tearing the entire distance. And again, we just want to waste the smallest little piece so we can keep the bulk. very little waste. And at the back of our file folder, we are going to go ahead and crease open all of those little folds in the back because we're going to need that for thickness inside of our junk journal. So everywhere that there's the crease, all 4 of those, we want to go ahead and open up and bend so that that starts to be a nice spine with some bulk for our boho journal. And crease on that spine where that file folder has those 4 little perforated marks to where all of it opens up so we can have some bulk in our journal. 1, 2, 3, 4 lines. And we're going to put the start to our pages inside of our journal, leaving approximately a 1/4 to a 1/2 inch, probably about a 1/2 inch there at the bottom. And we're going to tear off the top, leaving just about the same up top. And again, I can use that extra piece as a belly band or a pocket. And once we've torn that off, we have our book started to come together for our junk journal. And again, we're just putting different pages in here just to get the size of it. And then we're going to go ahead and put the fabric on it. So let's see what our size of the file folder using the 8.5 by 11 paper should be. Make sure we have enough spine to put at least 2 of the different pieces inside. And I have approximately 14 inches. So approximately 14 inches by 10. 14 by 10. Okay, so I have these about finished ripping into my size. Again, I said I was going to do 3 at one time. And we're just going to finish up this last one. And then we can start the next step. And we're going to go ahead and tear the rest of this page right down, and we're ready for our next step. So almost done. And it doesn't matter how you tear it. I like to tear it all towards the outside. That way I have the same appeal on each side. If I'm going to grunge it up, and I do have black ink already on me, sorry about that, so that the perforation is torn the same outward towards you on all 4 sides. And we got, okay, in our previous materials that we had sewn the pellin on the front, or excuse me, on the back side of the page. And this is paper sticky where I can pull that off, iron it right onto the cardstock, which I'm going to show you how we do that on the file folder. And I think this one is nice. We're going to go ahead and use this for one of them. I don't want to do 2 the same. Wow, I love, 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 love the watches. Maybe we'll do the watches. And then what else do we have? We have the coffee. And we have the druggist. Okay, so now we're ready to put our fabric onto our file folders. So what we're going to do is go ahead and go to the iron. We're going to make sure that the iron steam is off. And then we're going to go ahead and iron these down to the file folders. Yay! Okay, so now we've laid out our fabric with the sticky back or pellin backing, and we're going to line it up on our file folder, and we're going to go ahead and cut it to size. So let's cut it to size. And I am using my paper scissors here because it is important that the paper on the back of the fabric will dull your fabric scissors. So we want to make sure we always differentiate between our paper scissors and our fabric scissors. And now we said on the back was our sticky pellin or Misty Fuse or whatever brand that we're using at the moment. And then we're going to take our scissors and we're going to open it up to the blade. And we're just going to take that blade and make a little mark on our paper to where I can peel that right off. Okay, and now I'm going to stick my fingers right along that line, and I'm going to peel that pellin off, and I'm going to show you if it hasn't set too long, and I've ironed it at just the right setting. That should peel off easily for us. If not, we might have to go to the drawing board, grab the next page, and re-iron this. Looks like it's going to work for me. There we go. If we get one piece, I can wrap it all the way around, pull it off in one remaining sheet. And you see, I didn't put it on to all of the edges. That's okay on this project because I am going to put the ribbon and the lace around. I have my hot iron, almost stuck my hand to it. You got to watch. Okay, so now we're ready with that. And we're going to turn this over and iron it. And we're going to iron this right down. We've lined it up. We're going to turn our iron right off of the hot setting, so it's not going to be the hottest setting, but it's going to be very close. And we're going to go ahead and iron that. And we're leaving a little bit of the edge around it to where if I decide I want to go ahead and grunge that up with ink, I can. And with this, more than ironing and swiping, we're resting the iron on, kind of heat setting that glue into that paper, so it's going to be a permanent fix. And again, I told you I do have this wax paper. You can use wax paper from the kitchen, or you can use it from the deli section with the raw meats. Usually has it on a big roll. I've bought some at, I believe it was Sam's Club, so that I could tear it off and use it for my crafts, so I never have to worry about getting the sticky on the iron or on the ironing board, because I don't like to clean. All right, and that's looking good. And let me check my edges, and again, you just want to set it on there for about 10 to 20 seconds in each spot, or roughly whatever you saw me just do. And set that aside. And now we're going to take the edges. And perfect, look at there. It did stick. This is just the excess on the outside that I didn't have the sticky back on. So yes, that's nice. That looks perfect. So we're going to flip that over. And I want to go ahead and put the same color on the inside. You don't have to, but I'm going to. So I'm going to pull that over. I'm going to match it up the same way you saw me do on the top. And then I'm going to grab those scissors. I'm going to cut it off. Trying to leave a little bit of that manila folder sticking out. And that way I don't waste the fabric, waste the pellin. And I can still put the lace around it or the upholstery corners if I so choose. And this paper is so nice, it's got those little lines. I can try and make a mess while I get up to the top. Very good. And then I'm going to turn it over. Look at that. Look at that. That's perfect. Okay. Perfect, perfect, perfect. Because, y'all, this is a junk journal. We do not have to be perfect. Now, you see, I ran out of pellin and I did a second sheet. So we're going to put 2 slices on the back of this with the scissors. And we're going to pull it off in 2 different places. And if you see, I did overlap it a little bit, so we might have a little fun in that spot. But again, we are not precise. This is our junk journal. We're going to put pockets, ephemera, all kind of fun stuff right on top of this as well. And I'm going to get my fingers in there. I should be able to, and it looks like this is coming off real well as well, until we get down to that corner where I overlapped the 2. And we'll see how I can pull that apart. And again, we're not looking for perfection. Oh my goodness, look at that. Look at that. Sometimes you do luck out like that. And I'm going to make sure I don't burn my hand on the iron this time. And pull it off. The top page you can use so you don't get glue on different things because again, it's going to be like a little wax paper. But I usually toss that because I have so much of that and I'm making 3 at a time. I just keep 1 of those sheets instead of all of them. And we're going to go ahead and grab that iron again. I've got it on the same setting. Get rid of my paper over here so I don't get it mixed up. And grab that iron. Iron that down for me. I like where it's set. And again, we're not scrubbing. We're just setting it down, moving it to the next place, letting it set there, melting that wax pellin, or Misty Fuse, or whatever we're using today. And moving it again. And I guess, y'all, it's more like 5 seconds. Y'all can use, please use the instructions on your double back fuse that you purchase. You can get this at Joann's. Walmart's has it in the fabric section. Any of your craft stores, Hobby Lobby, Michael's, they all have it as well. And of course you can get this online. I had Joann, the last time they had a coupon, send me an entire bolt. I think I got it 50% off. So that's why we're using Pella this time. So it's about 5 seconds each place, and I think I'm good with that. And we're gonna move that iron aside and grab that next notebook, and let's repeat this with the next 2 colors. Okay, and we're gonna iron this down. And remember when we were cutting out the fabric and putting the fusible on the back, we said how this wasn't ripping in a straight quarter. So this is more of about 7.5 inches. So I'm going to show you on this one how we're going to go ahead and have pockets on the inside and the outside of the junk journal on the cover. And that way we take advantage of the fabric without any waste, and no one's going to know on the final product that this wasn't a full sheet. All right, let me flip this over and we'll get the other one ironed on the back. And again, y'all, we're not looking for perfection. We are just making junk journals here, and I'm so excited I get to show you how to make pockets on the front cover, inside and outside of the book as well. And we're just finishing up the last piece of ironing, and then we will start our next step. Okay, so we have the outside covers of all 3 of our books ready for the next step. And again, we have folded the inside so that they have room to create. And if we look at them together, they all are torn individually, so they are not the same. And that's why each and every single book is different. It's all handmade, and it's made for whatever whimsy that I like at the moment. And again, now we're going to go ahead and put pockets on this one. All right, and I am auditioning one of the ribbons, or I should say 80% polyester, 20% cotton. I got this last year from Hobby Lobby, and it was a tremendous sale. Not this year, but last year, and I haven't used it yet. It was $4.75 for the entire container. Normally, it's $3.99 per yard with 12 yards on it. I'm not sure how many yards is on this, but honestly, looking at the package, I'm going to think it's almost a full package. So again, tremendous, tremendous savings. And I think the color goes great with all of the junk journals that I'm looking at making. So let's take this over to the sewing machine and see if we can go ahead and decide which one we're going to go ahead and sew this around. Okay, my friends, so we've sat down at the sewing machine. I have my file folder and my fabric on both sides of it next to my heavy duty, very important, don't want to break a needle as quick, don't want to mess up one of those fancy machines. And we're going to go ahead and put on the big bundle of fabric, lace that we were going to use. It's beige. It's sometimes used around upholstery or furniture, but we are going to attach this instead of on a big fluffy pillow. We're going to put this on our junk journal. So we are going to attach it right at the bottom of the fabric, and we're going to sew around it. And it does have this nice little piece on the end to keep all the frays together, which we'll take off at the end so you can see all of that ruffle, all of that fray. Absolutely gorgeous. And we are starting on the bottom back of the fabric, and we're going to turn the machine onto double stitch. So we're going to go ahead and increase our length. We're going to pop it over to a double stitch, and we're going to widen that to our widest, and then we can come back and single stitch a little bit later. But we're going to go ahead and have fun and attach this all the way around. Making sure we're lining it up right on the bottom of that. And when we reach a corner, we're going to keep ourselves needle down, and we're going to pivot, and we're going to pull over and make our corner, keeping on the fabric, and we're going to go ahead and back stitch that over. And when you get to another corner again, take that, put your needle down. I like the needle on the outside corner, and then we're going to pull up our foot. We're going to pivot, pull our ribbon back over, and I apologize, I have one hand here. My tripod's not working too well doing this. And then we're going to put our foot back down. Make sure our ribbon is up on top of that cardboard, and we're going to zigzag up. And we're going to back stitch and keep going forward. And our thread down right on that top line, all the way up to the top. Needle down on the outside part, pivot. Again, this is bulky because we have this ribbon completely connected, so it's heavy on us. And we're going to turn that and come up on the top. And we've pivoted. We're going to go forward. We're going to back stitch. Hold our ribbon in place. And we're doing this all the way around on all four sides. We come to the end, put our needle on the outside, needle down position, and then we're going to pivot. We're going to finagle our ribbon back over, and we're going to meet in the middle. And once we've got that spot, we can cut off the bulk. So let's fix that. Now where we're going to cut, we're going to cut that and sew up the rest. And again, we're pivoting out that last corner, back stitched, and now we're coming in to meet our beginning spot right there. And we have our zigzag stitch all the way around the piece. Now I'm going to go around single stitching. So we've moved the dial back to a straight stitch, and I have put my width back in the center. And on my heavy duty machine, I'm going to sew all the way around, reinforcing that edge, reinforcing that stitch. Get to the edge, needle down, pivot, make my corners, pull my threads out of the way, and keep sewing straight stitch. And again, I'm using a brown thread on this fold so it blends in, okay. And for the big reveal, we're going to go ahead and cut off this thread that keeps the fibers together. And then you are going to see how it fluffs out and gets very, very, very beautiful for us. Okay, now I've got a hold of that thread, and I'm just going to pull it and keep pulling it so we can see the big reveal of the fluff. And you just pull that outside thread right off. friends, here is the first outside cover of my junk journal. Inside, outside. What do we think? I think that blended very, very nicely. And for some of the pages inside, I have a book page that has been torn out of a book that was purchased from the library for, I believe this one was $1/4, a child's book, large child's book. And we're gonna go ahead and take, I told you nothing goes to waste, a piece of that file folder that we're not using. I'm going to sew it onto the page and making it longer so it fits with the rest of the journal perfectly. And voila, we have sewn that piece on, created the start for one of our internal journal pages. And this book page is not large enough either, so if we fold it to where the end matches the outside cover, we have a much shorter page. We could leave it just like that, or what I'm going to do is I'm taking an 8.5 by 11 note card for Christmas, and instead of writing a letter on it this time, I'm going to take that, I'm going to match it up to where it looks very well in the book. I'm going to sew that down, and we're going to have a tuck where we can hide information that we don't want the average person picking up our journal and reading it to see. So it's going to be a nice little hole, nice little tuck, and it's going to work as a page as well. And let's sew that together. So I've opened the page, I've put it in the center, I have it lined up. We're going to put our presser foot down, and we're going to sew that straight across. And sewing on paper sounds bad, but it actually seals it in very well. So we can use it. It just dulls the needle. So before we use this on fabric again for another creation and project, we want to probably change that needle. So now taking a look at a couple of pages, we have the page that we've just sewn across. We can open it up. We'll take those threads off and we can journal. We can do some art, flip the page, and this is going to be bound in the back, but this is going to be able to open to flip out to hide that message. And then our next page, and like so. So we have started. And a pocket idea, I'm taking an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper, we folded it in half, two-tone on each side, we folded it in half, and then we're going to sew it onto a piece of slightly thinner than cardstock for pocket pages. So we have cut it in half. I've put one piece on the inside, and I think I want to go to the duller side, so we're going to do that, turn it over. I'm going to take the other piece that we cut in half, we're going to put it on the other side, and we're going to sew, and we're going to have a pocket, a pocket, a pocket, a pocket. But when we put these in the journal, they're going to be separated by all the other pages that we put in there. So the pockets that will be together will only be these two and not these two. Pivot. Make sure our papers are lined up. We're happy with that. And sew down. Our junk journal is growing. And keep creating pockets on pages with your different papers that you decided to use. And go up one side, come down the other. Using my needle on the outside, pivoting, and across the bottom. And again, this is not an exact science. You're going to put washi tape, you're going to put ribbons, lace, other things to hide a lot of the thread. but I prefer sewing over glue. And that's why you'll see that most of my books have stitching in them. Pockets on both sides, leaving the spine with a little more freedom so it's not as bulky when we put the holes through. The holes for the signature through. And we're going to put ribbon and lace in several places in our journal. What I have here is just a 9-foot piece of lace that matches, and I'm going to sew that right over my stitches. And so that's going to hide a lot of the file folder and add some more comfort feelies to the inside. And what I have left over from that 9-foot going around the junk journal, we're going to use as belly bands on a couple of pages. And looking a little bit nicer there. Got to touch it up around the edges. Of course, we're looking at it upside down. Okay, so now we're going to make some decoration on the end, and I just have a strip of fabric scraps and one of the pages that we had put a pocket on, and I'm going to go ahead and sew this down, making a little bunch up feely frou-frou on the edge. And I've got myself on a straight stitch, just going to lock it down, and then I'm going to start shoving this fabric up under the needle. And if I can get it to work here, we're going to have some prettiness. And again, I'm just gathering it up, throwing it under, trying not to sew my fingers as it comes down. See how I'm pushing it up under there? Sorry, I'm not getting a perfect picture here. But we're gathering it up under and pushing it up, sewing it down on the side. How that yellow and brown looks good next to that yellow pocket, I hope. And it looks like I'm getting close to the end here, which is okay. It's just a decoration. And then I'll cut off my little white tail, or maybe I'll pull it down. What do we think? Okay, let me pull this out and show it to you. What do we think? On the edge of that paper. Pretty nice.